Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, man, what's up?
Nothing too much. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this interview.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for the interest, of course. It's always nice.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been a fan of you guys for a few years now, and now knowing that you have a brand new album, I'm honored to be able to help promote it.
Hey, man, that's awesome, dude. I appreciate the interest, of course. I hope that you like what you hear. I'm sure you probably heard the single that we released. Have you checked out, or did Play send you anything from the rest of the album?
Yes, I've actually had the last few days have been able to check out the album, and I'm highly impressed with what you guys are doing.
Awesome, man. Well, that's obviously really good to hear. We spent about a year kind of setting everything up and demoing and getting it all ready to go. And, for me, drums go first when we're recording. And so we kind of did the drums all in a tiny little period of time. And then we kind of had to, let Clay and the other guys do the thing. And so it was interesting to take a step back, and then now we're kind of revisiting it and getting ready to get it out there. And so, all of a sudden you feel vulnerable and exposed. So you never know what people will really think. So cool, man. Thanks. I appreciate the positivity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I love the way it is with the album. I mean, of course, you guys choose an amazing single to be able to help promote the album, but the entire album is just chock filled with great songs. And my personal favorite, of course, I'm such a sucker for epics, is Black Rabbit. I just think that's just a perfect way to cap off the album.
Oh, man, it's such a good ending song, I know. And this album is interesting because it's dense. It's not really as long as our previous works have been, but it still feels just as dense to me. And obviously Black Rabbit is kind of a representation of that. I think it is a longer, kind of more epic piece, and it's got a lot of different elements in it. But it's a great way to end the album. I love it. It still gets me pumped whenever that last riff comes in, and it gets me excited just to still hear it at this time.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I've just been able to listen to the songs for a couple days now since I got the promo, but every time that I listen to it, I mean, just from beginning to end with the album, I mean, it really captures me, being such a huge prog fan, and just like hearing all the different influences that are going on, how different it is from different albums, and seeing what's new now. I mean, it's great to see this incarnation.
Cool, man, dude. Yeah, awesome. I mean, it's certainly really encouraging to hear coming from someone else, with a fresh set of ears. And obviously, like you said, kind of a lot of different influences being jammed into one. I think many artists kind of do that, and that's kind of how things get made, creatively speaking. But we did our best to kind of, have it be something that was not only unique, but really just a representation of who we are, as artists, and what has got us this far. The last album, Between the Madness, came together in a similar way, but the thing that made this one, I think, very different was we just kind of knew what it was going to be like from the beginning, like we knew what the track list was going to be. We kind of knew like how we wanted it to flow, and I think that shows with the 7 songs that we have. It just goes from beginning to end just like that, and it feels good. We like that.
So with having over a year with these songs, how much did how much did the songs change in the course of a year? I mean, did they stick pretty much the way they were, or did they take a long time to be able to fill out?
Well, of course they change and stuff. I think some of with this album, it feels like they didn't change quite as much maybe as the Between the Madness stuff did, but I think that a lot of that comes into the way that we kind of went about writing this one. It was more of a group effort this time around, even more so than the last one. Jaron and Martin are bassists, really prolific this time around with kind of coming in and helping Clay with like the riffs and just kind of like how the arrangement's going to set in. And I think we went through a couple different revisions kind of all at once. In fact, some of the songs would even change after we would go record the drums. We would go record the drums, and then come back and Clay would start laying in the guitar riffs, and he would say, actually, I kind of want to change the arrangement here. And thankfully, you can do stuff like that, and it's interesting to kind of see things take shape in that way. And but I think this time around they were certainly a little bit more set in kind of from the beginning. We kind of had a vision, I think, and we stuck true to that.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing when that can happen in the studio, where you just start tracking, and then the song can change form, even though you've practiced it a certain way. You heard the demo tracks in a certain way, but sometimes just being in the studio, it completely can change everything.
Totally, man. And studio is a certain kind of energy, and one of the things that I know, at least as my role as the drummer for Vangough, I think that a lot of it to me is about the energy, like where we're at, like with the energy and stuff. So that's what I think makes us kind of be like the type of band who will have these songs that are certain types of songs on the album, but whenever we go to play them live, the energy is going to be different, because we want it to match the environment that it's in. And so, whenever we get around to rehearsing these songs to play live, they're going to flesh out a little bit differently. And so it's always really exciting, I think, to kind of get to watch that happen, see how the songs will change, from my perspective. And, if I make a change, like maybe I want this certain area to be a little more energetic or a little more intense. And, we're all, me and Clay and Jaron, we're all really, we're tight bros. So they pick up on that, and the energy feeds on itself in that way. And it's really cool.
So how do you approach it when it comes to your part in the songwriting?
Well, Clay is, he's the captain of the ship, so to speak. So he has a vision, he has riffs, he's got ideas, and he'll kind of come to me with these things, and he dictates what he wants to hear. And from there, we kind of lay down just like a basic, like here's the bare bones of what the song will be. And from there, we'll spend some months kind of fleshing it out, and I'll kind of sit at home, just whittling away at the songs, and I'll find little parts that I really like to accentuate, and again, with the energy level of the song, like just what's the energy, what am I feeling, how does this make me feel, and how does it make me play? And usually, if I spend a few weeks or months on any song or a group of songs, it just seems to come out naturally. Like over time, I just will sit and play and play and play and play. And once it's been internalized, it just kind of comes out the way that it comes out, and that's kind of one of the beauty. I think that's the beauty of the type of music that we play, is that it has that ability to kind of constantly have new, fresh life in it. If that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. That, I mean,
you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. I mean, that of course happens the more that you start working with a group of people. You start to be able to play to their strengths. You start to know what they're looking for. You start to be able to showcase a little bit more of your side as well, but all making it work in a band context.
For sure, and I love playing drums, man. I've been playing for a long time, and I love the way that it makes me feel. I like having that as an outlet just for, the day-to-day stresses of life and whatnot. But playing with Clay and Jaron, I mean, it's great because, again, like what you just said, we're comfortable with each other, and I think that it really shows on this album. We really kind of banded together, and we were all on the same page just the whole time, and not that we weren't before or anything like that, but, I think that, again, with this being much more of a group effort, and also that it was just the three of us this time around, too, I think just kind of made it where it was like a really strong core, and we built from that, and, I mean, it's been a wild ride, watching it kind of come to life, especially since I did so much early on and then kind of had to just sit around and wait for like a year for everything to get done. I'm like, well, I'll worry about it whenever it gets here, and then now we're here, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy, so.
Yeah, and speaking of crazy, it's amazing how much you guys have really been picking up since the last album. I mean, being able to play at Prog Power, going on tour with Pain of Salvation, all of these great things, and now having a brand new album in 2017, it's great to see that momentum still going.
Yeah, I think that the tours, obviously, they helped a lot. They helped kind of with us being able to, get a feel for the interest that's out there. And this album will be just another step in that direction. I think it'll kind of solidify, our place on the spectrum, because especially when you talk about, like, progressive rock and progressive metal and stuff, I mean, that's a pretty broad term these days. I mean, you can be progressive, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you're going to sound like, sometimes when you say progressive metal, someone's going to think of, like, Dream Theater or something like that, and obviously we're not really on the Dream Theater spectrum of that, but, I mean, we do take elements from all different sides, but I think that this will kind of showcase really where we're at, and we've done a lot of different stuff over the years. If you listen to Kingdom of Ruin, I mean, it's a crazy album, man. It's different. It's not really like any of the other ones. And with Between the Madness, I think is like a updated Mannequin Parade, and in a way, I think that this new album, Warpaint, is kind of like an updated Kingdom of Ruin. It takes the dark and the light, and it kind of smashes it together into one super dense album. And that's something that we realized after we made it all. We were like, hey, this is kind of cool how it seems to come full circle for us in that way.
And thinking about that, was that the idea behind the cover art as well? Because, I mean, it does have that very bright in the background, but of course it has the black rabbits in the forefront.
No, well, not really. I mean, we didn't think of it like that until it kind of started really fleshing out. Travis Smith sent us some art stuff. And of course, Clay and his love for rabbits, you know, I think that they were on the same page with all that kind of stuff and what they wanted to see with the images and stuff. So he sent us what he thought of, you know, whenever he heard, you know, the demos that we were working on, and as soon as we saw it, we were like, yeah, that's it, dude, let's do it, let's roll with it. And I love it. It's got really cool colors. It's kind of like a dark Bob Ross painting or something.
Yeah, I really dig the way it looks, and it totally matches the feel of the album as well.
Cool, man. Yeah, I think so too. I think that you know, Clay is a great songwriter, man. He's a great arranger, and I love his lyric choices. They're ambiguous enough for you to pull your own meaning from, but obviously it has meaning to him as well. And you know, with the rabbit symbology and everything like that. So it's cool to watch it flesh out and to see things kind of just sync up in that way. It's not like something that you think like, all right, hey dude, will you draw us a picture of some rabbits and, you know, make it dark and stuff? It just kind of happened, you know, and so that kind of shows you that, you know, it makes artists like us feel like, okay, maybe, you know, we're on the right path, like we're doing a good thing right here, and it feels good.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, in speaking, of course, of all the brand new music on the new album, you guys released Morphine as the first single. How has the reception been for the song so far?
It seems to be, I mean, pretty good. I think that we've gotten a lot of, or not a lot, a few different websites who have kind of pumped it out there, and I think that from what I've seen, you know, I try not to get too hung up on, you know, if someone just says, like, oh, this sucks or whatever, you know, because, you know, we all know how fandom is, especially whenever you talk about online stuff. But it does seem, I would say that maybe people kind of are unsure of where to place it, again, like on the spectrum, because, you know, we're labeled as a prog metal band, which I'm not saying that that's inaccurate or anything. I just think that we're not necessarily your average prog metal band, so I think that sometimes it's a little tough, you know, and I know for myself as a listener of music, and I love the music I like, but if it's not in the realm of what I like, I tend to want to dismiss it pretty quickly. So Morphine, to me, we chose Morphine because it was the best representation of the whole album. Like, it's got the dynamics, you know, it's got the, you know, the heaviest parts, it's also got the softest parts, and it's also condensed into a nice, you know, accessible format. It's not overly long, and that was one of the things we really wanted to try to make sure we didn't make anything that was like just so burdensome to listen to, you know. But obviously, it's the first track of the album, so you want it to kick off with a bang, and, you know, I think that Morphine totally does that.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say very similar things about that. I mean, just like you said, Morphine is a great representation of what is in store for the rest of the album, and it's definitely a great first look. I mean, of course, there's always going to be some backtrack from fans, but there's also going to be some new fans because of it as well, because this might be the first exposure to you guys.
For sure, and I hope that, I guess, and I think that I speak for the other guys when I say that, I think that we're kind of hoping to get a bit more of a crossover appeal with this kind of stuff. I mean, you know, like I said earlier, we're not really on the Dream Theater spectrum of prog metal. You know, we're not crazy technical. I mean, but we like to keep things fast paced and moving and interesting, and it comes naturally for us, but it comes out in a different way, I think. You know, and so. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I think that you know what I'm saying. It's just like it's a thing where we wanted it to feel natural. You know, whatever the songs were, we didn't want it to feel forced or like overly technical just for the sake of being technical. You know, we wanted it to be something that's well within our means, but it's still something that is pushing us to the next level of musicianship. You know, so hopefully, you know, having said that, this will push us to the next level of exposure or success, and I think that the key to that is going to be having some crossover appeal, you know, not just like being in the world of prog metal, but maybe in the world of just metal, you know, because I listen to all kinds of music, you know. You'd probably be surprised, but I mean, of course, I love all the like prog metal stalwarts, you know. Bane of Salvation, obviously, a huge influence on us. I'm really into like Tesseract and Leprous. Those are probably my two tops right now. But you know, you can't go wrong with just some good old Metallica, man, and stuff like that. Like Metallica is something that's been with me since I was a kid, and even still today, they're still super successful. They're still super relevant in our musician lifestyle, and just kind of using that as like, well, you know, we want it to feel good, just like in the same way that Metallica's music just feels good. You know, it just feels good to listen to, get your blood pumping.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important to have that kind of creative mind as well. I mean, when you only focus on one style of music, that's the only thing that your mind's going to be focused on when you start to make your own music. music, but when you have other influences, you'll be able to incorporate that much more.
And something that I think is interesting too, that seemingly in the last year, probably during the kind of wrapping up of the production of this album, I noticed that Clay and I and Jaron too, we kind of started branching out and listening to just kind of unexpected things, that, you wouldn't think of like a heavy metal guy listening to. Nothing crazy, but it's just, enough where you're just like, all right, maybe this is kind of telling, I try to be in tune with what that means. Like, oh, well, I'm kind of feeling like I'm in a different mood for this certain type of music. But what does that mean? Like, maybe that means that I need to kind of branch out and try new things and see what it means for me as a musician. Whenever I sit at home and I play to my favorite tracks that I listen to every day, if it's something different and it's going to challenge me in that way and it's going to kind of make me feel like I need to apply that in my creative process as well.
And with that, I mean, when did you start to notice that with the more of the creative asset when it comes to your own playing with listening to different music? Like, in the last year, how have you changed your drumming because of that?
Drumming is, for me, something that is always changing. I mean, I'm always trying to basically learn everything I can. Because, drumming is something that you can kind of listen to and learn new stuff. You're like, oh, he did that really cool fill there. Like, I can kind of like listen to it enough times and remember how that felt and then apply that to something that I'm creating or working on. And so in that way, it's always changing. I'm always trying to learn new things and kind of combine them into one thing or, into one, I guess, style or whatever I'm trying to represent. But I will say that some things that really helped is obviously just going on tour, man. Like, we did those 2 tours, and especially the Fates Warning one, because it was kind of a little more intense. It was a shorter tour, and it was a bit more, I guess, of a real tour in the sense that there was like a crew and things, and those guys really were whipping us into shape, so to speak. And so all that, like, plus watching those super professional musicians up there on stage doing the thing, I mean, gosh, like, I feel like just watching them every night, I felt like I upgraded, like I leveled up watching Bobby up there playing open-handed and like doing all this cool stuff. I'm like, man, all right, like that, he makes it seem so fluid and so cool. Like, I want to do that too. And so, of course, I get home, and the next thing you know, I'm kind of relearning how to play these songs, open-handed and trying new things, man. Because we're humans, we adapt to survive, and we have to try new things.
Now you just got to put the China cymbals behind you, so you can definitely play like Bobby.
Dude, I saw those videos, man, and I was just like, all right, this guy's the real deal. I can't wait to see it. I was kind of sad that he doesn't do that for the live gig, but I mean, a joy to watch him play. I mean, he's a beast, and I felt like just through osmosis, me watching him every night, it did inspire me to come back home and challenge myself to kind of rethink, the way I was playing and even just the way I was playing the songs that I already knew. You'll see we're going to post here, I don't know, maybe in a week or so, morphine drum playthrough. And yeah, I mean, you can see it. I'm playing open-handed. It's not anything like super fancy or anything like that, but it feels natural. I'm to the point where I feel comfortable and kind of trying, if I can play it with my right hand, I want to know how to play it with my left hand, and that's where I'm at.
So with that, with being able to start playing more open-handed and more of the ambidextrity, have you had to change your setup at all, or are you still using the same setup?
No, I think that it's important to be able to work with what you got, especially with drumming, because I'm sure that we'll be in a situation where we may not have time to set up a specific setup, so I'm going to have to just work with what I got. In fact, I've actually stripped down quite a bit. I'm just using, it's a 4-piece kit, I got snare, 2 toms, and a kick. I've got still a pretty, wide assortment of cymbals and stuff, but I do try to represent one of everything on each side of the kit. So, like, my left side and right side need to have a crash and a china and a ride source, whether that be a hi-hat or, an actual ride. But also, with cymbals especially, I like them all to be as versatile as possible. So I don't want there to be some cymbal that's just like only useful for this one application. Kind of like Chinas are. They're super harsh and super aggressive, and you can't just be wound on a China all the time. It gets old, it starts to feel like a constant breakdown or something.
Oh, and I mean, you could, but it's not nearly as fun as being able to have more of a variety of cymbals out there. I mean,
yeah, well, and listen, I think that especially when you talk about music with Vangough and working with Clay, you want it to have a lot of variety to it, and I think it's important to to have that manifest in every aspect of the music, not just the arrangement and the song choices, but, and even the more nuanced approach is just like how I'm playing and what it means to, I guess, like decide, hey, do I want, I do think about this kind of stuff, like, do I want this part to be like a heavy, like, am I going to be backing on a crash here? Is it going to be a China spot, But there's still room to feel it out in the moment.
So with that, I mean, have you changed like any of the symbols at all between albums? Like any new symbols or adding more or anything?
Oh yeah, I'm always trying to buy new symbols because that's really where it's at. I mean, a set of drums can sound good if you slap some good heads on them and know how to tune them, but really a good cymbal is something that it's a very particular. I mean, I have a particular ear about that kind of stuff. I have one right now that actually has several cracks in it, and I still love it to death because it's got that real trashy, just like super. It's trashy. It's got a nuanced taste to it, and it's versatile. So I can't let go of it. But I think that for the most part, I've been sticking to the same setup that I have going on. I mean, like the ones that I use on all the tours and in both of the recording sessions for the last two albums. I mean, it's all Zildjian stuff, mostly sticking to the K lines, which are usually darker and a little thinner. So to me, I like being able to be the bass into them and have them, match however I'm playing, and whether it's soft or super hard, because I definitely kind of tend to go from one extreme to the next.
Yeah, and the music absolutely calls for that. I mean, with all the mellow parts that Vangough is known for, and all the crazy heavy parts as well, it's good to have that versatility behind it. Although it does kind of break the bank when you do eventually have to get rid of a cymbal that's too cracked to be able to use.
That's the thing, is I'm trying not to get rid of them. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff that Leprous has been putting out. Bard Kolstad, he's one of my top faves right now, just because he's a monster. He's got the tracks the way that they are, but then when you play them live, it's just they're even more intense, And dude, you watch that guy play. Or at least until recently, he was just playing on these same broken cymbals that it looked like he'd had since he was like 17 or something. I don't know. I thought that was really cool. It was like his stamp on that, and I just figure, if it still sounds good, man, like just roll with it until it doesn't make a sound anymore. I'm gonna keep jamming on it until it's broken.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the good points on playing with a broken cymbal like that. Is the decay starts to calm down. So like any parts that you need to like do a cymbal choke or something, you might not even have to. It just might be able to have that quick hit and be done. Yeah, the one that I have that's super cracked, you'll see in the drum video. It's actually like my main crash. It's an Oriental crash theme, which is kind of a bigger crash, and it's super thin, but it allows me to either ride on it or crash on it. And yeah, like you say, it doesn't like dominate the mix. It doesn't just slam through and make it to where like if I'm wailing on it, it's the only thing you can hear. Oh yeah, and I mean it's so awesome to see the kind of setup like that. I mean, being able to play open-handed, mess around with cymbals like that, and just like finding the right sound, and it's always evolving too. And I think that's very important for a musician to always go out and explore new options, even if you don't necessarily use them, but just to explore.
True. I mean, and I've learned a lot having to kind of go in and, since we're talking about cymbals and stuff, like they're so expensive, and it's really where you spend your money at. I think as a drummer, that's the top gear thing I think that we kind of will invest our time in. When you get one home and you gotta kind of like let it settle into your kit. You're like, I got this nice new shiny kit cymbal and it doesn't necessarily sound the way you think it's going to, but after a few weeks when it's got a little grime and sweat on it, it starts to kind of nestle into the rest of the sound, and it takes a while to kind of get an ear for that. And I really have only just started to really have a more fine-tuned taste for those sorts of things. And a lot of that comes just from, I think, the experience of being on the road. Super thankful to be able to go on both of those tours with Pain of Salvation and Fate's Warning, and get to learn that kind of stuff. And I feel like, all of us, we grew as musicians doing that. But I can see how I took home lessons just for myself, just from getting to do that.
So, in speaking of that, is there any plans coming up for the rest of the year with possible touring?
Well, there's always plans, and it's one of those things where until it's like really, really, really finalized, you never really know. But of course, we're definitely wanting to get up there and promote the album in some way with some form of tour, whether that's something that maybe we do ourselves, like maybe we decide to just kind of book our own, maybe smaller scale tour that kind of is a little bit more close to home, or if we can, buy on or jump on another larger acts tour with a reasonable deal, then yeah, of course we would be totally game to do that, because just talking to Clay earlier today about, you know, I was watching the videos from the Faith Warning shows, and it was just like, dude, we were, you know, I mean, like, it was electric, man. I mean, we were definitely really in the moment with those shows, and I mean, just watching it really brought me back to the way that felt, and I want to do it again. So it's going to happen one way or another. Now, when it happens, I don't know. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I would love to do another 2-week stretch, you know, sometime, you know, before the summer's over.
Oh, yeah, that would be fantastic. And it would be a great opportunity to be able to promote the new album, which comes out on St. Patrick's Day, because it definitely deserves that live setting feel. I mean, it sounds amazing on album, but there's no experience like being able to experience it live.
Totally, man. I mean, you're speaking on my level for sure, because I think that's where we come from. The guys at Vangough, we've always been inspired by the electric atmosphere that a live show creates, and I feel like even though, you know, we have a pretty extensive discography these days. I mean, you know, we've got like 5 albums out. I mean, I did this one and the last one in the acoustic EP. You know, but sorry, I lost what I was saying. Just talking about how, you know, over the years, I've always felt like we were a live band. And we wanted to always have the energy of a live band that, you know, when we go to play a show, we don't want it to be just like the same song you heard on the album. We want it to be an experience, something that you remember, and something that makes you get in the moment and almost like lose yourself in that electricity.
Oh yeah, very much so. And I'm already envisioning it in my head, like some of the songs, like with how they would sound live. I mean, being able to get that full live experience, I think it could have a lot of potential, especially if it gets played at the right show, possibly on the right tour. I definitely think it's going to be one of those albums that is going to make it to the end of the year, and I think a lot of people are going to be happy with it.
Well, thanks, man. Dude, like I said, I appreciate the positive words, man, and I agree with you. I think this album is Warpaint is a more accurate representation of who we are as a whole, and so I think that whenever we do get around to playing these songs live, it's of course gonna come to life even more. I mean, even now when I'm sitting here at home playing these songs again, getting ready to do videos and stuff like that, I'm already thinking like, all right, you know, maybe this part needs to be pumped up a little bit. And if you look, you know, whenever we did the 2 tours, you know, we played a couple of songs on both tours, and if you look, we didn't really play either of those songs the same way both times, and both of those times weren't the same really as the way it was in the album. So just because we play the same song doesn't mean it's going to be the same experience every time. And to me, that's something that is just immensely valuable. I look for that in a live experience, and so I want to give that to someone who is experiencing us live.
Oh, definitely. Well, awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Being a fan of the band, it's a tremendous honor to be able to help promote Warpaint by Vangough, which is coming out March 17th. And I highly think that this is going to be one of the best prog albums of the year. I mean, it feels like you guys really nailed it. I mean, it feels so cohesive, whether it's in the more melodic, mellow moments, the heavier moments, the insane fills that you do every once in a while on the album at the right times. It's got everything that I think anyone who can appreciate prog or metal or rock would really be able to enjoy. And again, just thank you for taking the time to do this.
Hey man, dude, it's absolutely my pleasure, and I think you hit the nail on the head whenever you said that. I think that we wanted it to be something that listeners of all different spectrums of heavy music can enjoy, and that's what we wanted to be. And I always felt like this we achieved that, but to hear you say it like that, I mean, now I just feel like, all right, yeah, I think that we have accomplished our mission, and so I appreciate you, man. Like, I appreciate you taking the time to give me a call and chat with me about it. I hope that others agree with your sentiment, of course, you know. But honestly, I keep it positive, man. I think that it is going to be a good year for Vangough.